Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Welsh Republic podcast, episode 114 today. And I am here with my guest, Rita Love. How are you doing today, Rita?
I'm doing great. How about you? Well, I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me up on, giving me a platform and all that stuff. So, spread my ideas and all that stuff, and give my experience. But thank you for having me. How are you doing today?
I'm okay. It's just I've had a bit of a bug recently. Been a bit sick. It's winter here in New Zealand, and the weather's a bit meh. How about you? Have you been up to anything much today?
No, I just went to work and I came home. I looked over the news. I plan to do a little bit of a recording after the show or whatever to post to Twitter. But I was just kind of reading on what's going on for today, and I was catching up on the news about Juneteenth and stuff like that, or whatever's going on. So
that I saw that Twitter post. What was the Juneteenth post about?
Well, my post, or in general, Juneteenth today, I know there was a lot of there was the shootings that happened over the weekend.
Oh, really? What shootings was it about? I didn't actually hear about that. What was that about?
So I printed them out. I was going to read them after the show, but in short, there was a shooting in Illinois, in Chicago, Illinois. There was 28 people. I don't want to say 28 people killed, or at least 28 people injured. And then there was at least a double-digit number of people killed. And then there was someone killed in San Diego as well.
Oh, that's absolutely terrible.
Right.
God, what was the shooter like? What race was he in? What ideology was?
I don't know. I still haven't read over the paper yet, so I'll have to check it out. But so I wasn't sure the demographic yet. I'm not sure the demographics, which is important. It's very important to know. So
fair enough. Yeah, that's a bit sucky to hear that. That shooting happened. It sucks. Feel bad for the families, eh? Oh, it sucks.
I was gonna say, I know that the one in San Diego, they were not able to get a suspect. That was the only article I'd read so far. I didn't get to read the one that had the 28 injured. So I don't know the full details. So
yeah. So, Rita, tell me about yourself. What made you get into politics? What is your political background? How did you become a Trump supporter? And what made you, want to start doing YouTube videos and stuff?
Let's see. So, a lot going on there, but let's say politically, I feel like I've always been very politically engaged. I think the first time I started truly being politically engaged when I was a kid, I was watching the State of the Union with George Bush. So very long time ago. I guess I could almost say 20 years ago now. I just remember having to watch it for history class, and that was the first time I I had my parents sit down with me and to actually fully engage with me on what the State of the Union was and all that stuff. But I mean, prior to that, I was taught how to shoot a rifle. I was born in Pennsylvania, but I also moved down to the South for a minuscule part of my childhood, and there I learned how to shoot a gun. I lived with my grandmother, so she was very conservative, and she definitely would be conservative by today's standards. And she took me to church. We were I was a devout Christian, and like I said, I learned how to hunt at a very young age. I grew up on a farm, so there was a lot of working the garden and doing stuff like that. So a lot of that backyard type of actually the backland type of thing. So but then I moved back to the city, and it was polarizing for me because it was already I don't want to say hyper liberal, but it was very dominantly on the left. Pittsburgh is a very dominantly left. I think they even may consider it to be the blue anchor. I think they call it the blue anchor of Pennsylvania. I might have to look that up, something along those lines. And I've always kind of I guess living in the South and then coming here where it's very, very much on the blue, it's hard blue here. It was kind of as a kid, almost a red pilling experience. It was just something seemed not right. Something always seemed kind of.
What year was this? What year was this?
When I moved here,
yeah.
I would say it was 2001. I actually remember whenever 9/11 happened. I remember being in the car with my mother. So yeah, no, I remember 9/11 happened when I was in Pittsburgh. So that had to have been over 20 years ago at this point.
Mm-hmm. It was about 22 years ago, Yeah, that was an awful moment.
Yeah, it was 22 years ago, and I just remember being in the car and her telling me oh, the Twin Towers there's a plane that flew into the Twin Towers or whatever. So now I'm thinking back, I remember that was kind of I was always sort of politically engaged. I don't know. beyond that, I've always been kind of on the right. I just kind of more and more so have become more aware of my positions over time. And I guess that's the way I would say. I've never been like politically on the left. I always thought that the left, I guess when I was a young kid, I had it on the basic side of like, why does the left spend so much money? Because like I think once like Obama came into place, I was like, why does the left spend so much money on so much stuff? And it always seems the conservatives, or at least the right, doesn't spend a lot of money on things. We don't have as many financial issues when they're in place. So I think that was another like kind of red pilling experience for me as a young kid. So, and also you couldn't like the limits for owning a gun in Pennsylvania are very slim. So it's like you almost have to have been shot like 2 times, you know, in your torso and have your legs broken and be crawling in the street before you can actually like defend yourself. That might be a little bit hyperbolic, but you know, it's kind of the reality when you're living here that like the safety rules that we have in place for guns is absolutely ridiculous. So it's almost not even worth defending yourself. So I would say that's kind of like what's shaped me politically, and more so being engaged over time has shaped my political backing. And then I, you know, the trans thing is kind of like a weirder thing that happened later because I was trans, but then I had like kind of this political backing that was counter to the way I thought. And then I found Blair online. And then that kind of like awakened me on like a way to kind of philosophically be consistent with like the philosophies I was holding and then also be trans. So I eventually just decided to like go to a specialist, and then that, you know, I spent like a few years getting diagnosed and stuff like that. So I definitely believe in some sort of reasonable level of gatekeeping for the trans stuff. So, but beyond that, I guess like becoming a Trump supporter, I was definitely a Trump supporter in 2016. I had a very like, what was another awakening experience for me is I had a very like left-wing girlfriend at the time too. And she was like totally getting indoctrinated by like all the stuff you see the leftists believe in. She was fully like indoctrinated by it. Like, so, you know, telling me about like the thousands of genders and like how I should perceive like trans people, even before I was trans, and like white privilege and all this kind of stuff. And it was just like, you know, all that kind of, I actually experienced like, I guess, discrimination as a white person growing up too. So that was another kind of red pill experience to me that like, the left kind of makes me feel hated as like the person I am. So beyond that, you know, I dated her, and then she was like vehemently anti-Trump. And like the entire time I was just watching his like, I remember we were watching it before he got elected, and I just liked everything he was saying. And I was like resonating with him. Like I remember the moment that he like I remember the moment that he announced his presidency, I was like so behind everything he was saying. You know, I know that there was like some, you know, he said things like we're gonna ban Muslims to the country and stuff like that, which I mean, honestly, is me as like an, you know, as a trans person, I kind of agree with. I mean, like on some degree, I mean, there's free speech, so I can't really ban a religion from the country, but you know, I can kind of socially work towards against that. But that's kind of like where I've become, I guess, the sense a Trump supporter. I don't necessarily call myself a Trump supporter anymore. But I wore the hat for a different reason. It just politically shows where I'm at.
How come you don't find yourself as a Trump supporter anymore? What made you stop supporting him?
I'm not even saying that I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm kind of like, enough of the rhetoric hasn't been put out there yet. Like, I don't know what's, you know, DeSantis is exactly going to support and what Trump is going to support. So like their platforms haven't been kind of given way yet. So it's really hard for me to decide who I want to pick, I guess. I mean, really right now I've just seen that DeSantis is dropping in the polls and Trump is continuing to go up in the polls. So I'm probably going to support Trump, but I just like, I guess now, you know, now that if I like actually admittedly support Trump, it can like, you know, puts me in such like a box at this point. Like, oh, you support this. Like, I just say I'm on the right. You know, if I have to pick Trump, I'm going to pick Trump. So, I mean, politically, I would probably agree with him more than DeSantis. I think that he's the more of the, when it comes to it, I really feel like they have DeSantis as kind of like making Trump almost seem like the moderate type. Even like there's like I've been reading some left-wing Reddit, and a lot of them are like want to support Trump over anybody because they don't like Biden, because they all hate Biden.
And yeah, that's definitely happened. Like there's definitely more people like moving over to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. or that other girl who's running as a Democrat. Like there's so many people who are just getting fed up with Biden because he's probably the worst president the United States has ever had, you know?
That's true. Yeah. And yeah, and if like RFK wasn't an option, I'm not saying I would vote for RFK. I'm kind of like on the fence about, I like what he's saying, whatever. I kind of, it's the thing is like, I look at RFK as kind of just like Trump on the left, like he's just Trump, but like, cloaked as a Democrat. Like that's kind of like he's saying the same things that Trump was saying in 2016. So I don't know. I'm just like politically, I wait until I'm ready to cast my ballot, I guess, almost to like who I want to decide to vote for. I really think about it. I guess like if it was like 4 years ago, like almost around the time of like 2020, I would just be like, yeah, no, Trump all the way. It's like, but now I even more and more so think about politically who I want to pick. But the hat was worn kind of like as like, I am politically on the right. That's not going to change. If it became like, I just don't see RFK getting the nomination on the left. It's not.
He's not going to. He's not. There's no way. With the stuff he said about the vaccines and the stuff he said about, Robert F. his, uncle, I think it's his uncle getting killed, by the CIA, which we all know is true now because there's a lot of documents coming out about that, and like the big pharma corruption, especially what he said on Joe Rogan's show and the other shows. It's like, it is a bit of a funny business, Rita.
No, it is. And yeah, that's what I try and look at things realistically. And realistically, I see it as just, unless somehow Trump goes to jail, even if like, I almost feel like, they'd have to go through, they're planning to indict him almost like 4 times at this point. Like I've been kind of reading into it. Like he's been indicted twice now, but I've heard that they're planning to do it where they're at currently. There's supposed to be 3 more indictments after this. So from this Jack Smith guy. But beyond that, I think like he could, the time frame and like when they could put him in trial and all that stuff, like he could become president before he's even like at trial. So it doesn't even like it's so every day is almost like it's ever changing every single day. To me, I think the indictment is pretty much a farce. Like I haven't.
Oh, it is. It's an inside job because they ignore the fact that Biden kept documents, Mike Pence kept documents, Obama, Clinton, all the other presidents did. There's also the scandal of the hooker thing, which Bill Clinton got in trouble over something. They ignore the fact, they ignore, these other presidents' crimes and the war crimes they committed in the Middle East, like Yemen, Somalia, Libya, Afghanistan, and all that stuff, and all the dodgy stuff they've done. And they also ignore the bribery of like Biden getting money from Ukraine, from I think it was an electronic company in Ukraine recently, the 15 billion, and the Hunter Biden laptop. Why aren't they investigating that? Like, come on, it's just the United States government, it's just so corrupt.
Yeah, that stuff like that stuff on its face, like why the Biden laptop is not, of any importance to anybody on the left. Like they're just like, nope, that's whatever. And then another thing is like, yeah, with Hillary, she deleted the emails. There's no evidence of what there was. He's written up this indictment, of course, it has, subcategory everything through and through. And he, says this is what was there. But at the same time, it's like all I've seen is pictures of boxes. I haven't seen the actual evidence.
Oh yeah, that was an absolute farce. That was like, are you kidding me? Like, they post like a photo of all these boxes at the same time. The mainstream media, Rita, is just such a clown show. It's kind of like that time, when CNN went outside the old lady's house and they were like showing photos of how they were accusing the Russian government of hacking like the election in 2016, which was a load of rubbish because Hillary Clinton was the one who was doing mostly election fraud at that time. And like, do you remember that video at CNN where they were showing like the old lady where, it was outside a house where they were showing like how Russian hackers use technology? Like, oh my God.
No, I didn't see that. No, I actually didn't see that.
It's such a load of crap. I don't know anybody can buy into the mainstream media anymore, Rita. It's just such a clown show. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said that the next election is probably going to be decided on podcasting, so I really think it would be a good idea for Donald Trump to go on Joe Rogan's show or even a Twitter space, because I did hear Elon Musk, wants to bring him on, which is, wow, that's going to be a very big space. That's going to probably be the most popular space ever,
Right. I think with DeSantis alone, which failed to launch as well, which was like 750, like they moved it to, what's his name? Adam. Is it Adam? Not Adam. No, I forget what his name was. Robert, is it Robert Stack? Not Robert Stack. That's Unsolved Mysteries. I forget what his name is. But they had to move it off of Elon's Twitter space to like another, like a lower person. I forget what his name is right now. But just support it. But it was 200 or 750,000 that tuned in at one point.
And then they all left because it was such a disaster,
Yeah, it was very like regimented. Like he was very much obviously reading a script, and then like obviously the people that came up to ask questions were very scripted. Like it seemed like
Oh
he was.
yeah, Ron. What is your opinion on Ron DeSantis signing a bill in Israel, which is, going to? Did you hear about that? You heard about that, right? What is your opinion on Ron DeSantis signing a bill in Israel where it's going to, prevent freedom of speech in the United States? Where if you're someone who criticizes Israel, or if you're someone, who's like writes anti-Semitic speech, but this bill, of course, is going to be used, to target people who protest against, transgender ideology. Laura Loomer did a very good video about this. And what is your opinion, about him also wanting to make a bill, where bloggers are going to have to get the permission to write about him? And what is your also opinion, about DeSantis being backed by globalist billionaires like Ken Griffin, and, the scandal going on that he was actually torturing like prisoners, at Guantanamo Bay, because there's also another scandal about it. Like, and also his always connections in Disney. What is your opinions on that? Because, and also, what is your opinion, about Ron DeSantis also copying like Trump a lot of the time, like in his impressions and all that? It's stupid.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, when he tries to kind of bring himself to the stage presence, he tries to be very Trump-like as well. But yeah, no, in regards to that, the Israel stuff, I mean, I kind of saw that with whenever he banned Ben and Jerry's from the state back. I don't know if you remember that, but that was like he banned Ben and Jerry's back in the day whenever they were kind of like doing like a, anti-Zionist sort of position or whatever. My position on Israel is I'm actually kind of on the middle grounds on that whole topic, which people don't think that there is one. But to me, it's like I don't really support Israel or Palestine. I mean, as a trans person, I'm just not going to support Palestine. I'm not going to support Islam in any way. And if someone like forced me to pick one or the other, I would pick Israel over the other. But in a sense, I just don't. I'm actually I'm against foreign aid. And maybe you agree with me on that as like a libertarian.
Yeah. I actually think that United States, because United States gives so much money away to Israel and foreign aid. Don't know exactly, the number, and the amount of money they're giving to Ukraine, and especially giving money away to neo-Nazis, is just, it's absolutely ridiculous. And I do agree. I do think United States needs to stop giving money, especially to the military-industrial complex, especially when it could be giving, when it's giving like $100 billion to Israel and Ukraine, when they could be doing it for its infrastructure. If United States, if it used that money for healthcare, for social development, the United States could be a paradise. It could be one of the best countries to live in the world. It could fix that problem just like that, especially with the amount of money, because it is the richest country in the world. Well, I mean, technically, the media will say it's not, but because it's got the Federal Reserve that prints unlimited money. But as long as you have the Federal Reserve and the other banks, it's not going to happen. So yeah, I mean, foreign aid is just, it's really pathetic. But
it's not. Yeah, and yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, you can't be like openly anti. Like that's I always have to be very careful when I'm being like, criticizing Israel, because they'll take it as anti-Semitism or whatever. Like, it's you can't like. They can't separate anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, for example, it's just like how, so I used to be, back in the day when I was conservative, I used to be very like anti-Islam, but I've kind of changed my opinions on it because, in the whole Russia-Ukraine situation, it kind of, changed my opinion because I've become, more on. So, by the way, this person said hi. I can't remember her name. You know this person, Luca?
Oh, is that Logic? Oh my gosh, how did Logic find me on here? That's funny.
Hi, Logic. How are you doing today? Yeah, sorry I pronounced your name wrong, Logic. It's just my anxiety gets to me. But yeah, I do agree. I do think people, misinterpret, like criticizing Israel. Like, in my opinion, I do believe the Israeli government are committing crimes against the Palestinians. They are stealing a lot of their land. They are, creating atrocities. Not to say the Palestinian government is any good, but it's the United States, elitist, like the WEF and the bankers who fund both sides. They're the ones funding Hamas. They're the ones funding the Taliban, Al Qaeda. They're the ones who created it. Like Vladimir Putin said, they are the ones who pretty much created a lot of that. So yeah, and I do agree. If you're someone who criticizes Israel, that doesn't mean you're that doesn't mean you're anti-Jewish. That doesn't mean you're anti-Zionist. You just disagree with one thing. If someone says Israel's committing this, which they are, that doesn't mean you should be labeled as anti-Semitic. It's freaking ridiculous.
No, it's true. Yeah, no, and like I said, it's really just comes from an anti-foreign aid type of position. Like I'm kind of isolationist in that way. Like I'm definitely for like a strong immigration, like I don't want any immigration almost. So, but like, even beyond like the legal and the legal, I think it's destroying our country. So, but yeah, no, I don't believe in foreign aid. It's not like it's not even an anti-Israel thing. It's just kind of like an anti-foreign aid position. So, in most positions, like, how that is. I'm not really going to support NATO either. So,
what is your opinion on the fact, that Joe Biden has removed, is it Title 41, 42, 41?
I don't know. Which one is that?
So it was the thing, that where Trump actually did a border policy that was actually pretty good. It was preventing, but what is your opinion on that being removed and all the dodginess that you're seeing with the border? Immigrants coming past, like terrorists, like, cartels going on, it's just insane, seeing like the rape go up and stuff like that, the drug crime, all that stuff, Logic says, nice to see. No worries, Welsh. Good to see you live. That's Logic. That's funny. But yeah, it's just, especially with like, I watched a video with Ted Cruz, Rita, and I'm not a fan of Ted Cruz, but he was talking about, I think it was like one of Biden's like top border officials, and he was destroying him. He was saying, like the amount of humans who have been sex trafficked, from 2020 to 2021 just went from this to this. The amount of drug crime went on from this to this. It's like, it's insane. Have you noticed any facts, that you've seen from any news outlet that's, really disturbed you? What would you say, like, is the most disturbing thing you've seen out of the border crisis come out? Like the most disturbing story you've heard from someone?
I'm trying to think of something I can recall right now at this very moment. I know that there was that, I know it was like there was a big movement a few months ago where they were crossing the border. They were coming up almost in like droves across the border. But there was also, I know RFK did like a little bit of like a in real life story there as well. You could just kind of see people coming from almost any direction trying to cross the border. I mean, when Trump was working on the wall, it was working. I mean, he was making a massive wall. I heard it was so tall. They had set it up in such a way where it was like becoming so hot that they were almost getting stuck to it trying to climb the wall. Something like that. It was a while ago, but it was worth it though. I'm okay spending money to protect our nation and our home. Like, I believe that if we have a door, if you're entitled to a locked door for your home, and we consider our nation our home too, we need to have a locked door on our home. And I know that they try and say, we're spending, I looked at it last year, our spending was about like $151 billion in illegal immigrants. Just like the cost that they put on the nation.
Also giving them phones, giving them healthcare, which really should be needed. Well, look, I mean, of course, if you have an immigrant that needs healthcare urgently, you should give them that healthcare. Like if they're having if they're a kid at the border, or like, well, I'm just talking about. Sorry, just my mind going a bit.
Maybe yeah. I don't know. It depends on like. I probably would say no. Just like like to leave their problems in Mexico. I know that's kind of savage, but I'm very much for like. That's the thing is like, I think that people nowadays are too compassionate in politics. Like there is just such a high degree of compassionacy. We have to be compassionate, but like that, honestly, being compassionate has no place in politics. Like it just always leads to being issuematic. I think that even Aristotle talked about that the political system built on empathy is destined to fail.
Aristotle, yeah. I had a girl called Aiden Palatine on. Have you heard of her? Aiden Palatine. She's a really good girl. She's a really cool girl. I've had her on 3 times now. I'm going to be having her on the 4th of July. Depends if she's going to come because she might be busy. Who knows? And she's a big fan of Aristotle, and she mentions a lot of good quotes about Aristotle. What would you say is your favorite quote of Aristotle, Rita?
I would probably say that, like the empathy. I couldn't name. What was the? I feel like I should have this more ready for what he said. Yeah, no, I would probably. I can't name a quote right now, so I feel kind of illegitimate that I can't quote something from Aristotle. My brain's not on key right now.
Yeah, that's okay. Don't worry about it. But yeah, the border crisis in the United States is it's getting really out of hand. What other stories have you heard about, like the border crisis, which has really put you off?
I would say. I should have had more of a regimen ready for this dialogue, but I would just, I guess I'm just gonna sit there and say that they're coming over the border and they're well, I think the biggest issue is that they come over the border and then have this sort of like vote in the mail by vote system or whatever, voter by mail, and then they can pick up fraudulent votes. They take people that are deceased. Like there was I was seeing there was residents or citizens that were getting like double ballots into their house, and that can just be fraudulent right there when they're like deceased. Like the dead person's getting 2 ballots into their house. So I guess my only thing is if they're gonna have, what was the other thing is that they were what was that they're like actually moving these immigrants. Where did they move the immigrants to? They moved it to
Florida.
Florida, that's right, yeah.
No, they weren't moving to Florida, but they moved them to like, this island. I can't remember it. But yeah, they moved them to some places, and some leftists were like, please get them away.
Right. And my biggest issue, I guess, in a sense, with immigration is that whenever they come here, like it takes like 3 generations for them to be like to start voting more conservatively or more on the right. Like they always come in and they vote left. They want to support the left. So demographically, it's just like they're kind of, I don't want to like, that might also lead to me saying like I'm not, for women being able to vote because they generally vote for the left too. But which I think is more of a social conversation that we need to have. But beyond that, they're just sending, I think if they're going to have, immigrants come into the nation and flood into here, if we could just like send them to like these refugees in like California, that would be better. That way their votes don't really matter because those.
Oh, California is a lost state. That's really lost, that's gone.
Yeah, it's not only like a sanctuary state for refugees, but it's also a sanctuary state for like trans people now. I think if you're trans, I don't even know what level of degree you have to be trans to go there and seek refugees. So like I almost by today's standards, you could say, oh, I'm trans. I'm just trans. I don't have any medical diagnosis or whatever. I'm just deciding to be trans. So maybe I'm going to go seek sanctuary in California. It's just another way to like put somebody else on medical assistance because they go to the refugee camps and then they put them on medical assistance and the taxpayers pay for it. And then they can't afford things like, I think in California, it's like most people just have private security. Like the cops don't do anything or they're almost non-existent. So.
Oh, they don't. By the way, Logic gave a really good point here. She's saying, yeah, but there has to be some level of empathetic connection, doesn't there? How can any bridge be built between divided sides without any empathy? That human concept will always be present. What is your opinion on that?
I disagree. that I don't think we're going to reach, like, I don't even know, like, any of the positions that we try and seek between the two sides. Like, let's think here. It's like I think a reasonable position that even like Blair is pointed out for like trans people, like we have less acceptance because, they want to push the ability for kids to transition and get on puberty blockers and start HRT at like the age of 16, and like they're also finding lucrative ways to get them through the surgery process at younger ages. In a sense, it's like they think that like, oh, that the reason why they do that is because of empathy. They don't want people to go through a puberty or pubescent. They don't want to go through their natural puberty because then it'll be harder for them to pass. That's the whole backing to why they want them to be able to, essentially be able to transition because it's going to cause them life and harm in the future and stuff like that. But like we have to have an age of consent law, and and that
absolutely
has to, and like and it's like. That's not coming from a place of empathy. It's like we just need to have a line in the sand that says this is the line of consent. It has no place in empathy. We've decided on it, and that goes for, honestly, to me, almost any medical intervention when it comes to like even like putting kids on like mood stabilizers or any sort of like most medications that people put on, people even like, what is it, psychosomatics, whatever, like antidepressants and stuff like that. Like I think you should have to be of the age of 18 to even potentially do that.
Oh, absolutely.
It hinders your growth. So it's not an empathetic position. It's just saying, hey, we have an age of consent. That's the line. If you don't like it, I'm sorry. You may not pass when you get older. I'm sorry, but we have to have, some sort of level. I mean, like the whole entire backing for why they want someone to be able to transition is because they may have discomfort when they get older that they may not be able to pass, and they may have, social, issues trying to, lucratively pass through society. But like, not everyone is beautiful and not everyone is, ugly, or, some people are just ugly. That's just how it is. I know it's sad. I know in some places, like, they're going to think that's very savage to be, but like, that's how you have to be in a political system. It's like, it's like with Medicaid and stuff like that. Like, I know that it seems like ridiculous to kind of pull that kind of stuff away from people. Like, people are going to die. It's like, yeah, people are going to die, but people are also going to die if we continue to exhaust money and still like taxpayer money. And like, we're not going to have a country. We're going to have a third world country because we of all based off empathy, based off all like, yeah.
Which is a bit scary because some parts of the United States, no, I don't want to talk shitly to the United States because there are some still good parts of the United States. They're still very nice. When you look at California, you look at Philadelphia, it's pretty much already third world. When you look at all the problems of homelessness and all that, it's just an absolute mess. By the way, Logic also came up with another thing to say, Rita. She says, well, of course, a balance has to be somewhat maintained, like the balance between reason and emotion. At some point, one will power the other. Seems impossible to totally toss empathy away. Very interesting, comment there by Logic. What is your opinion on that, Rita?
So I would say reason conquers all. That's just
why would you say reason conquers all?
That might be that's I might be like falls back to Thomas Paine, in An Age of Reason. But I think that's just I guess in a sense I'm a rationalist and I'm not an imperialist. So it's just kind of like I rationally find myself with these positions, but yeah, it's just reason's always going to conquer over. What was the other word that she used?
She said
emotion.
Emotion, yeah. Emotion.
That was another thing that, I think it was Aristotle said, it's essentially that's still coming from in a place. Empathy and emotion are almost, they could be traded as the same word, that's where empathy comes from. So you have to have the reason over empathy. People will die. People will die from being reasonable, but it's the way for a stronger future. I know it's kind of like the populist take, but it's definitely it's going to be, like I said, people will die both ways, but it's how many people will die choosing one way or the other, and which way will be most just. Just because we break our, this bad thing happened to somebody, is it just to steal from other people to serve their, their place in society? They're like lacking thereof. It's just not it's not realistic. So I guess that's like my place is libertarian, but I guess that's a kind of a libertarian position. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds like a very libertarian position.
What's going on? I thought Logic's like supposed to be like, I'm not even like a libertarian. I don't consider myself to be a libertarian. I consider myself to be pretty like, I don't know, far right. I don't know, so maybe far right, dissonant right. But yeah, I'm not a libertarian. I mean, I guess I don't consider myself to be a libertarian, so because I'm for a wall. I am for a border wall, a very strong border wall. So that would make me kind of not libertarian on that take. So. Because it's going to take my tax dollars to make that wall happen. So,
Rita, so speaking of that, as we all know, and also ladies and gentlemen, we all know there was a viral video of you going live where you were like it was like a rally that was happening with LGBTQ people, like leftists. And this video went viral. It was a video that went viral, and then you got assaulted, which was a very, popular video online. Sorry, I'm just taking my time to try and share the screen because it's just, it does that, sharing tips, share screen. It like a video that went live and you got assaulted by some leftists, which is disgusting and shouldn't be happening because you should be someone, especially when you're wearing like a MAGA hat and like all of those people, see it as a threat, which is absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, I am just going to, is it okay if I can show that video?
That's fine. Yeah. I wanted to close on my immigration stance and just say that like, I'm definitely against mass immigration. And I would like to repeal like the like what came forth through like the Hart-Celler Act in like the 1960s and how it kind of changed like demographics and how we moved our nation into like what it is now, essentially. So I guess that's my closing statement on that.
Okay, let me see.
Anyway, we bring this up.
Yeah, you can see it. You can see it, right?
Oh yeah. Definitely can see it.
Sorry, Rita, was I a bit rude there? Did you want to say something? Or
no, that was it. I think I closed out on it. I just want to, I'm just.
Did I speak over you or something?
No, not at all.
No.
At all.
Okay.
No, you're all great.
So, ladies and gentlemen, here it is. So, as you can see here, Rita it says here on the tweet, assaulted at a pride parade for wearing a MAGA hat. They told me that my hate speech hat wasn't welcome here, which it's not a fucking hate speech hat. That's a load of rubbish. And then they proceeded to steal it and repeatedly screamed at me for being a Nazi. After fleeing, another man came up and hit me. That's absolutely unacceptable. And yeah, so here we go, folks. This is the video that's going to go live. You can see it. All good?
Yep. Totally can see it.
So here we go. This video, everybody, it's gone live. It also, has been shared by a lot of famous people, some Congress members, and even who are the famous people shared it to?
I forget I couldn't recall the 2 congressmen, but yeah, Ollie London made a post about it, and Dinesh D'Souza retweeted it, and there are a few other pretty big accounts on Twitter that that shared it. So I was really happy about that.
Well, there's a welcome right there.
Right. You want to I don't know if you want to give commentary over it a little bit, or if you wanted to let the whole video play.
I'll just let the whole video play. Is that okay with you? You can give commentary too. So
if
here
you
we
want
go.
To stop it at any moment, that's completely okay too. So if you have any questions.
Going live in 3, 2, 1. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. The video is playing now.
I'm welcome here. I am welcome here.
No, you're not. You're not welcome here.
Yes, I am.
Not welcome here.
I am welcome here.
We don't give a fuck about Trumpers.
Local Blair White is welcome here. Here. Fucking go.
Oh my God. How did that feel, when that person, ripped your hat off? That's just, they say they're just all for loving and they just go and do that. And how does that hat represent hate?
So yeah, it doesn't. It's just a statement whatsoever. I don't believe in this sort of idea of hate speech. It's not a real thing. It's total manipulation. But in the concept of that, yeah, in that moment, I'll say that my heart started racing and it really starts racing here in a second when he starts screaming Nazi at me, and because he starts calling me a Nazi, and then multiple people start calling me a Nazi in the background, and I was like, am I gonna get mobbed right now? Because I didn't really think he was to take my hat off. I felt like I knew someone was going to take my hat. That's why I put it on very tightly, and I had a ponytail because I knew someone would try and take. I had a sense that someone would try and take my hat, so I kind of prepared for that. I knew that would. I was ready for that to happen. So when it did, I was pretty much ready.
You did very cool. You managed to keep your calm, because that can be. Anyways, let's keep playing the video.
You're not allowed to do that.
Hey, this is Nazi right here. We don't take Nazis here.
You freaking kidding me, eh? They really need to stop this. This whole motion that, Trump supporters are Nazis or libertarians are Nazis or stuff like that is just, the left needs to move on from it, because if they keep doing this, it's just, people are just not going to take them serious, Rita.
Right. And when there is someone that's arguably a Nazi, they don't even take them. They're like, oh, they're probably okay to watch then because you guys call everyone a Nazi, when the line is so, when the bar is so low to be a Nazi, it's just everyone's a Nazi at that point. They start to accept things that maybe they weren't going to accept before. So
anyways, let's keep watching it.
Go ahead. Yeah.
No Nazis.
I'm not a Nazi. They try to take my hat. Let's go. Oh, he's so mad. He's so mad. He's so angry.
Oh my God, that's what they do, eh? They just literally, they're so full of angry, these people. They're so miserable inside. I'm not saying all the left is miserable, because there are a lot of nice LGBTQ people, there are nice, but a lot of the far leftists are just so miserable deep inside. They're not very happy people. They don't really know how to talk to people, and they just shut you out. It's just and especially when he's going there and telling people, oh, look at this guy, look at that. That's not love. That's just mob mentality.
No, it's totally true.
No, anyways.
All in that.
I'm gonna need everybody to come a little bit closer, because what we got to see is something wrong. So you know what?
Oh!
The girl with the master.
Go home! Boo! Let's rock and roll!
And this is the guy when he's about to come up, eh? He's going to come up soon, isn't he?
Yeah, he's going to come up and smack me.
You need to calm down. You need to calm down, sir. Let's fucking go. Ah! Oh, you will. You should be more inclusive and accepting.
You should be more close. Don't fucking
Hey, that's an assault. That's an assault. It's on camera. It's on.
Oh wow, that is just ridiculous, eh? Like, hang on, sorry, just gonna remove that video. It's okay.
No, so
How how did it feel like after that person, you know, hit you with the thing? Like, so of course, ladies and gentlemen, we just saw that video where Rita just, you know, got assaulted and was just called very bad names by a very intolerant far leftist, you know, and, you know, you're very brave for going in there, you know, with a Trump hat because you've got more balls than a lot of the men there. You do. I tell you that, like more, you know, testosterone than they do. When, after like this video went viral, like, after the incident where you got hit in the hat, what happened exactly? Did you press charges on that guy or did you just leave after that or did you stay there for a bit?
No, I actually didn't leave. I actually went off and like uploaded the video because I kind of was like, what I anticipated to happen happened. Because people said, oh, it probably won't happen. I think that people will just give you like, you know, maybe some people will say some mean things to you or whatever, or what, you know, like people may just like, you know, give you like bad looks. But I anticipated that there would be something that happened. I guess in a sense, I was hoping to be proven wrong because I wore the hat as like in a sense like Martin Luther, you know, taking protests to like the Catholic Church or Socrates going up against Athens. Like it was, to me, it was a moment to say that this is in a sense, like this is supposed to be something that's all inclusive and for people to express who they are. And I was like, okay, well, I fit the core demographic of people who are supposed to be here. And I'm going to express who I am. I'm going to wear a MAGA hat, you know, and express that I'm right wing and that I know that there's other, and I met other right wing like not even well, I think I maybe I don't know. I don't think most people are truly right wing, but you know, I met people that were definitely applauding what I did and that I was very welcome. Even the host, the person that was like going around like I guess in a sense like they were calling themselves the host of the Pride event was happy that I was there and didn't want me to leave. So I continued to stay and like I did reach out to my lawyer and that the thing is like there was no damages, so there's nothing I could really sue on. Like I wasn't truly damaged or hurt to a major degree, but it was an unnecessary experience for me to be there and to be sort of brigaded like that at an event where I should be welcome at.
Yeah, you should be. That should not be happening at all. You know, like, wow, man, these people will go on about how they're so tolerant and then they just do that. After like you uploaded that video, of course, you did get a lot of reaction, a lot of big people sharing it. Did you like get any like a lot of death threats from far leftists? Have you had like people, you know, emailing you or something like that?
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly, I don't know what's going on with that. Like, I don't get. Can people amp up the hate? Like everyone's always talking about all this hate mail that they get. Like I don't get anything. Like I've put myself out there. I don't know if it's just people. Wow. I don't know if it's just people are scared of me or something like that. Like I think people are just legitimately scared of me. You know, like people call me a reactionary or whatever, but I don't get like any death threats. Like there's maybe some trans people that are just like, I'll get some DMs that are like, you know, they hate you. You know what I mean? Like that's the sum of it. You know, they hate you. Why are you supporting them? Like that's all they'll say. But I don't get anything that's like, I hope you die or I hope you burn in hell. If anything, if anybody's watching this, that's like anti me, if you could please send me some like death threats. It's really lacking in my DMs. So, in like a joking way, because this thing is like, I mean, like, I'm just not scared of any. I mean, like I wore a MAGA hat to the Pride Parade. I really don't feel scared of anything at this point. I feel pretty alive. And like, you're right. I don't think most right-wing males, I am a male, but in a sense, like, I don't think like someone who's not on like estrogen or whatever, would be willing to, you know, like a fully blown testosterone person would be willing to walk through the Pride Parade in like a MAGA hat. Like, it was a scary experience for me, but whatever. I knew that like if, they killed me, it wouldn't be able to be something they could hide. So no, go ahead.
It's also a good thing you didn't go in there and like attack people, because then the mainstream media will make a thing out of it and then they'll say, oh, there's crazy Trump supporter, you know, because even if you were someone who was attacked first and defended yourself, you would get labeled, you know, as something crazy by the media. So this was in Pennsylvania, right? This event was, right?
Right. It was in the city of Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh. So what is Pittsburgh like? Is it like mostly conservative? Is it mostly leftist? And like you said, like how in 2001 you moved there, like what changes have you noticed like ever since you moved there in 2001? And like, is it mostly leftist now? Because a lot of people say that Pittsburgh's supposed to be conservative mostly.
No, it's not. It's not conservative. It's like I was saying. I think it's the blue anchor of the state. It's definitely essentially it's a battleground state. Pittsburgh and Philadelphia are hyper blue, and everything else is hyper red. So you leave the city, it's immediately like a conservative area. So you get these conservative people that kind of like stray into the city sometimes, but it's very much like at this point, there's everyone that's in the city that lives in the city is either, has a ton of money or they're living off like government assistance, and they live in like, one of these like, halfway houses or whatever, not halfway house, section 2 or whatever, section 8 homes. So, yeah, it's not a pretty sight. It's definitely all leftist. To me, it's all leftist. There's a ton of like, whenever you see on like the television, like these like, crazy like trans activists and stuff like that happens in Pittsburgh. Like I've had incidents like that. I just had that last week where I went to like a protest and they're everywhere. They come in armies. When I went to the Michael Knowles event, I went there to like capture what was happening outside. They covered the entire street. They burned an effigy of Michael Knowles in the street. I don't know if you actually look at Michael Knowles' account on Twitter, his like header, his like cover, whatever, his like little like the cover art at the very top is actually from Pittsburgh at that event that I was at. And they took a picture of him being burned in the street, like an effigy of him. So it's very hyper left. It's a big school area. There's a lot of like there's Pitt University, or Pittsburgh University. It's not, I don't want to mix it up with Penn State. But there's Pitt, and it's hyper left. It's a lot of like feminists and stuff like that. So there is a mix of conservatives like that are in here, but it's very much a very left wing area. So it's very much like you meet a lot of conservatives that are not allowed to, or I like to just say right wing, because not necessarily they're on the right that they're conservative, but that they have to keep their views concealed. And that's the thing is like now I almost am like not able to keep my views concealed anymore. Like I'm going to places. I went to another Pride event on this previous weekend, just like get more footage and like see what's going on. And I wore like a way more incognito outfit, and there was still someone that found me and picked me out, and they like knew that it was me. They're like, "You're not wearing your red hat today, but I know who you are." And I was like,
"Oh God."
So it's like I'm going around and I'm like notorious in like the city of Pittsburgh and some of the outer areas, especially these people that are like hyper leftists, which makes me kind of feel unsafe, I guess, in a sense. I mean, like, I guess I feel unsafe, but whatever, who knows? I'm not getting people approaching me on an everyday basis, but whatever. When I went to this protest this previous week, there was definitely people like that pointed me out. They knew who I was when I immediately showed up. So like I hadn't even had a chance to like get my camera turned on before they were already kind of like, instigating me a little bit. So
fair enough. Are you planning to do any other events like coming up where you're going to be going to any other far leftist events?
Yeah, no, I do plan to go. Let's see, this weekend, I'm still trying to figure out some like logistics, but I'm supposed to be going to New York, to go to like a Pride parade that's supposed to be a lot more middle ground. I don't really support Pride. That's the thing is like, I'm going there to a friend and she's trying to like make this like kind of movement called like Pride with a Purpose. I don't know if kids are going to be allowed. Like to me, like if it's a Pride event, like kids shouldn't be allowed because there's people.
Absolutely, they should not be there.
No, I mean, that's the thing is like, it's another thing is I wore a MAGA hat and a very like normal outfit, and there was people walking around in bondage gear and like people that were like basically naked in front of children.
And they don't call that. They say, "Oh, that's tolerant, that's respectful," but yet you just wearing a hat's not. The logic of these people is just, especially doing that in front of kids, is just not acceptable.
Yeah, it's exactly the whole point of like, I'm just more and more angry about it. The thing is, I was also removed from the event. I was removed from the Pride parade. So I'm planning on, like I spoke with my lawyer about it and he was like, well, we can't sue anything. Like I can't help you because it's not like a damage. There wasn't damages. Like I wasn't assaulted to the degree of where I had to go to the hospital. My things weren't broken and stuff like that. But it is a civil rights issue, or not civil rights, but civil liberties issue, where I was removed from a public event and there's video proof of me being like, essentially like kind of lightly assaulted. and also and heckled, and multiple videos of people being assholes to me when I was just there being very peaceful and quiet, and many people that came up to me and supported me and liked me. And it wasn't like I was there going up to people like, why are you pro-life? Why are you pro-choice? Why are you like anti-gun? Like I wasn't like doing stuff like that. I was just being like a person existing with a hat on. So the fact that they removed me was based on, you know, my political beliefs. You know, they were finding me to be a disruption at the parade, but it doesn't matter. Like it's a public event, so I should be allowed to be held at a public park. So they violated my civil liberties, and so my lawyer told me to reach out to the ACLU, and they kind of deal with these kind of cases. It's not like, you know, it's more of like we need to defend the rights of the country. So, which will be interesting. I want to know where that might go. So we'll find out more soon, hopefully.
You know, what advice would you give to people who are wanting to do the same thing like you did, going into one of these far left parades? Like, what advice would you give them, like because they want to go in to expose something? And what things do you think they should not do when going to do what you just did?
Definitely don't antagonize, because they're going to use that against you. I may even kind of learned that at like the protest I went to recently. I kind of got really more into it with them because I was just kind of like, I was trying to give them kind of like the taste of their own medicine. But in the same sense, it's like, yeah, don't antagonize. Don't go with that sense. I would probably suggest bringing a friend. You know, that left me very vulnerable to not be there with someone like backing me up at the back of my side, or like even watching my back. In a sense, like I had the camera as deterrence. I felt like, especially at this protest I went to, if the police weren't there, I probably could have been killed. Who knows? They were already like aggressing on me very aggressively. And even with a camera on me, even with the police standing there in front of them, they were pretty much ready to like stab me if they could and get away with it. And I think at the Pride Parade, if I wouldn't have had a camera, essentially I had a camera pointed on me, viewing the back of me, so I could always see if someone was going to try and come up behind me and do something, and then I could look forward. But still in the same sense, it's like I can't watch every angle as a, you know, being there alone. So I would say if you're going to do it, bring someone with you. You know, don't bring like a gun with you. Like don't, because like in the same sense, it's like a lot of people are like, you need to, because I have a concealed carry, of course, which I use predominantly all the time. But at that event, I chose not to do that. I chose not to bring pepper spray. I chose not to do those things because I knew that if I went there and I caused violence in any way, even if I didn't start it, but if I caused violence in any way, or even if I pulled out a gun or even had a gun, that it would have become, you know, crazy Trump supporter shows up to the Pride Parade with a gun, and like that would have been the story. And then I would have just made the right look bad. But if anything, like this story just makes the left look very bad. That's it. There's no way to get around it. They attacked me. I didn't pull a gun on them. I said if they killed me, then I would be a martyr. Like, that's fine. Not trying to be narcissistic in that way, but I knew that was basically like the sum of the conclusion, or make myself look bad by having a gun. So definitely go, I would say, unarmed. Go with a friend. Be prepared to get antagonized the entire time. But definitely be brave and know that you're there standing up for what you believe. So it's supposed to be an event that is for people to express who they are. It's supposed to be all-inclusive and all-welcoming. I don't like the Pride Parade. I don't think that there should be a Pride Parade, but it's not something I can stop.
What about the idea of Pride Month? Are you okay with Pride Month? Or?
No, I don't. I think, like, I'm not trying to be like a Christian about it, but Pride definitely is like the lack of humility. I wish I had my Pascal here, because Pascal has a very perfect quote about Pride that I could pull up. I was like, I don't have my quotes. You know, I feel like I haven't been able to read as much the past like month, and so I'm not like here with the quotes today. I feel really bad because I should be able to like quote Aristotle like off the back of my head, but anyway, regardless out of that, pride is just the lack of humility. And in a sense, it's like you're at this Pride Parade and people are like, they're embracing the lack of humility, and it's just not. It's like they're so brainwashed and they're manipulated into embracing something that they shouldn't be embracing. I'm not trying to say, oh, it's the 7 deadly sins, but the 7 deadly sins still is like, just because the Bible says something doesn't mean it's not true, because I'm not a Christian, but just because the Bible says something doesn't mean it's not true in some sense. Like, it's not good.
Because usually with societies usually fall as soon as they become prideful. Pride is the first, step of going down, going up and down. You know. By the way, Logic has some question here. She says here, pride is not what it used to mean. Some would argue it's just a sex party on a block now. That's very true. That's very true. What is your opinion on that?
Right. And I think that like sometimes people kind of conflate that with like what like, and I don't even like the idea of the LGBT whatever.
Before you know it, it's going to be LGBTQ1+7A.
Right. And they may say it's a slippery slope. But I mean, it just acts as it's ideological. You know, there's a difference between like people like going in the street and protesting that people like gays should be treated equally and not like lobotomized. But it's differently. I mean, like I don't know beyond. I mean, like I don't know like really how long has it been since like gays are really. You know, the thing is like gays want to like be the issue, and I talk to a lot of gay people about this is that for some reason they want to be very public about their like, you know, they want to be very outward about their sexuality, which like straight people are not. And I think that that's the issue with pride. That's what pride has brought forth, is that people want to just be very open about their sexuality. But if you're straight though, it's like you can't talk about that, you know. But straight people they usually keep that to themselves. Like in a sense, like straight people keep it more in the closet or more behind closed doors or, you know, in your own home or whatever than gay people do. And I don't know, like I really haven't seen like any pride movement that was like I was keen to being pro, you know, oh, we need to do that. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to say I am definitely at the federal level against like gay marriage and stuff. So I mean, I don't really know what they've really fought for that I kind of even agree with. Like everything that LGBT and LGBTQ whatever has brought forth is like it's just not good for society. Like it's just not, you know, some people,
especially targeting kids. You know, Z Highness brought up a good thing here. Yeah, they're barely clothed, which is very true, and in front of kids too. And it goes to mention, because California just brought a bill up where I think it's not been passed, maybe it has, where what is that bill where in California that if you don't help your kid, you know, affirmed sex changing operation, you'll get your kid taken away from you or something like that, because
that's,
you know
CPS here, or Child Protective Services. Yeah, they'll come and take they say it's child abuse. That if you're not letting your kid, which is like crazy. It's like, oh, I want to have a reasonable position about my kid being able to like be put on like life altering drugs that they're going to be made.
How is that healthcare? It's not healthcare. The drugs have like so much side effects, you know, and it's like, oh my God.
Even I am still experiencing things that like, you know, I wasn't anticipating, that, you know, I'm not told about, or it's still, and not in the way I wasn't told about it. It's just, it's so experimental that like to be testing on kids is not right. You know, we haven't even found it to be safe within adults to most degree. So why we're even risking it on kids is it shows it on the surface, because all they want to do really is make people, it's like a depopulation. I know that's kind of conspiratorial in a sense, but it really is like a method of depopulation.
It is. It absolutely is. You know.
But someone would say that's some sort of like Great Reset conspiracy theory or whatever, which I don't believe that it is. So if that makes sense. It's like we shouldn't in there. And the thing is, like, there's an uptick in. It used to be that there was a higher amount of, not by a marginal degree, but there was more in a sense what they call M to F than there was F to M. So males to females and then females to male or whatever. And now there's an uptick in females taking HRT, and it's drastically like higher than males doing it. So these are the people that like women are the people that actually matter for the reproduction of our society. So, and like in another sense, it's like you can see the declining birth rates in our country, not just with white people, but with black people too, who have been like, you know, like the main, you know, it's a lot of it's abortion, and a lot of it's like this other method of depopulation and stopping reproduction between the major demographics of our country. So.
Logic just got a good point here. She says that's the worst part too. Never thought society would see this stuff, let alone at this level. Well, it's like Weimar Republic, and it's like Sodom and Gomorrah. It's exactly like it's reached that level, you know. Now, speaking of that, Rita, I hear that there is a bit of silly drama going on with this girl. What's her called? Her name? Kelly.
Oh, Kelly Cadigan.
Like, what is that about? Explain to me what is going on there, and like, what has she been doing to piss a lot of people off? Would you like to explain?
Right. I could come at it from a few different angles. Overall, I would say that she was, she was kind of grifting on the right. It was very obvious. I thought it to be very obvious from the beginning, but I won't get it. I guess I'll get into that later. But, she came out with a very, viral video that said like, oh, if someone wants to call me he, like that's freedom of speech. Like I'm like, whatever, I'm against that. And everyone just started liking her at that point. Like, in a sense, like she got endorsed by Blair. She got endorsed by Sarah Hidgen. Sorry, I was like, oh my gosh, why would I mess up her last name? But at the same time, it was like I was kind of looking at this like I was watching her rhetoric, and I can just watch someone's rhetoric and like immediately pick out their politics. And like some were saying like, oh, she's trying to come to, like she's trying to like figure her politics out. And like when someone comes out and they're like, oh, this is my day 2 of being a conservative, it's like it's not day 2 of being conservative. It's like day 2 of like thinking differently of being on the left. Like that's really, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's super cringe. And she went through this like day 10 of being on the right, day 20 of being on the right. It was so cringe. And it was like very obvious that was how she was starting every single video. And I remember it really started crumbling when she made this video about like the TERFs. I don't know if you know this language, but the TERFs, they have this thing called a TEM, or they have a TEM and they have a TIF. That means trans-identified female. So that would be like a female that's becoming trans or whatever, or a male that's like I would be a TEM to them, a trans-identified male. And they were calling her TEM, and she was like, if you don't want me to call you TERF, you need to stop calling me TEM. And like everyone went after her and said like, oh, that's like an issue with freedom of speech. Like they can say whatever. If they want to call you a TEM, like that's their belief system. And like that's the whole idea of freedom of speech. It's like you're going to hear dialogue that you don't agree with. So she was already starting to kind of break at that point. And I could notice that the TERFs really got to her, because the TERFs, she also said, like my position on the bathrooms is a very capitalist position. It's like, I think that the businesses, like, it's up to the business. If the business says, I'm biologically male, I have to go to the male bathroom, I will go to the male bathroom. That's the right of the business. I'm a capitalist in that sense. And she was like, well, I don't care if they would do that. I would break the law anyway. So, I was like, I don't care if that would be the rule. And like that didn't cause much an issue with me, but it started to cause an issue with like the TERFs, especially because they really want to protect their spaces and they want to bring on positive rights, which even I disagree with, where they're saying like a bit, like they're essentially trying to say, well, this is that commodity and I have this right to this commodity or whatever, which to me is like low level socialism, because you're seizing the means of, I know it's like through the bathrooms, but they are seizing the means of production by saying like, no, that business has to force it to be like that females go to the female bathroom and males go to the male bathroom. Like that is like kind of a socialist position. So I can't support that. Like I'm a full-blown capitalist, but the business wants to do it, whatever. But Kelly said, regardless of either my position or her position, that she would go to the women's bathroom. She doesn't care. So that's another position she started to break on. And eventually, like one day she came out, and then I don't know all the exact drama between her and Blair, but I know that essentially everyone around Blair had a massive argument with her. Oh, that's right. She was saying that she was a woman. So like another thing is with the transsexuals. Sorry if I'm like going off.
That's fine. Don't worry about it. It's all good.
Anything you need to catch up on or whatever. But she was going around saying that she was a woman, and or that she was more of a woman than like actual women or whatever. And like we kind of take the position of like I'm a male with a mental illness. Like that's the position that we take. And she was like unwilling to take that position. She's like, no, I'm a woman. And so like a lot of transsexuals had an issue with her. And at that point, I know definitely the TERFs had an issue with her. Sorry if it's a little bit kind of scattered or whatever. But at that point, she started to turn back to the left. Or she was kind of slowly still on the left the entire time. Whatever. She had her free speech position, whatever. But she did something, I don't know what it was, but something that incited almost like sexual harassment of like Blair. Something like that, and Blair had to like block her. So,
that's not very good,
right? And like she put the statement out. I don't have it in front of me. Like I'm just not ready with the quotes today. I feel really let down on that part. But beyond that, she disavowed her openly. Finally, I had to disavow Kelly like 3 times. But she essentially disavowed her. And now Kelly is like on the left, back on the left. Well, she's become irrelevant now because everyone noticed, like everyone on the right is like, if you came crawling back in a week after they try
She
and
gives
cancel.
that sounds very grifty. That is
No, it's a
very
grift.
grifty vibes. It's a big problem in today's industry, especially in the political industry.
Right, and it didn't make sense also that she wasn't, like, this is kind of a tinfoil hat take, but she wasn't canceled off TikTok when she was saying things that Blair would say. Like, Blair didn't last, I think, even a day on TikTok. Like, she was banned, like, very much immediately on TikTok, where Kelly got to keep her platform, which seemed very weird. Like, why did Kelly get to keep her platform when she was saying all this, like, right-wing, like, Blair White position type stuff, and all of a sudden she's like, if Blair gets banned for it, but she doesn't, it was kind of weird. To me, but all of a sudden she stole, like, I remember watching Kelly's account. She went somewhere from the range of like 13,000 to maybe even like 11,000 followers on Twitter, upwards to 20,000 now, before she basically got disavowed by Blair. So, and Blair shouted her out on like 2 podcasts. So that makes, she got all these extra followers from Blair that she doesn't deserve. So, definitely a bit of drama there. I had multiple dramas with her. She blocked me multiple times. So, I mean, like, she didn't like.
Yeah, it is becoming a bit of a big thing on Twitter at the moment. It is.
Right. I think at this point she is like stopped being political because basically people on both sides of the aisle have said like you need to log off. And I think now she's like reviewing movies or whatever. So I think that she's totally like kind of fallen off her where she was at anyway. I don't think that she can kind of recover from it. I think if she wants to be involved on the internet, I think she needs to just stop doing politics. I don't think she has like the fortitude to handle politics. So
are you considering about maybe challenging her for a debate? Have you thought about that?
Who, Kelly?
Yeah.
If she wants to debate, she has me blocked on Twitter, so I don't know if she wants to debate me. When we debated last time, we had the debate on the bathrooms. And I asked
was this
her,
on a Twitter space?
Yeah, it was on a Twitter space, and I asked her about the bathrooms, and I gave her my position as a capitalist because I asked her if she was a capitalist, and I was like, well, that's the capitalist position. There's no other way. It's like, it's up to the business. If the business says that you have to go to your bathroom, you have to go to the male bathroom. And she was like, well, I agree with it on that stance, but I probably would still break the law. It's like, okay, well, you break the law, but you still agree with me. That's okay. You break the law, but you still agree with me. So I won the debate. She refollowed me. So whatever. Well, I mean, I don't want to say I won the debate. The dialogue that we had in that sense, it seemed like she did not win. So, but if she wants to debate me, she could.
Kelly, if you're watching this, Rita wants to challenge you. You're more than welcome to debate her. There you go.
There you go. I don't know if she'll watch it, but she'll. If she wants to debate me, she could. She hasn't challenged me. I don't know what she would want to debate on. Like, I really don't know what she would want to debate me on. So, no one wants to debate me. I wanted to debate that nominal Naomi, and she was like breastfeeding her kid. Like, I don't know if you saw that whole incident.
Oh God.
So she was like, she's a male and she's inducing lactation through this method called the Newman-Goldfarb method that has like barely any scientific legitimate backing, and it uses this non-FDA approved drug named dopiridone, which has never been FDA approved. It's existed in the States since the 1970s. And this method, the Newman-Goldfarb method, has existed since 2002, I think, about. Still not FDA approved. And she's giving her not even biological child. It's like an adopted child. She's with somebody, she's dating somebody, and that's their biological child. And she's breastfeeding them through this like lactation method. Now, like when women do this, like women can do this too, but even like then, like doctors they're not apt to usually do this. It's like 1 in 4 doctors will actually willingly do this. And it's usually at like a gender clinic or like Planned Parenthood, where it's a whole slew of messy things going on there anyway. It's like always like, oh, the doctor said I could do it. It's like, well, not all doctors are legitimate, and not all doctors are always out there for the best interest of their patients or whatever. So that's not really. It's like a. I think that's an argumentative fallacy, but ever since I kind of unearthed that about dopiridone, she never wants to debate me either. So she won't debate me. I offered to have Vosh. I don't know if you know who Vosh is. I offered to have him moderate the debate. Still won't debate me. Chloe Cole retweeted the tweet. Still won't debate me. So nominal Naomi won't debate me.
Chloe Cole was really cool. I've had her on my show before. She's cool.
Yeah, I like her. I watch her dialogue very closely. So the people on the left won't debate me. I don't know why. So I'm not trying to say that they're afraid of me or they should be afraid of me, but whatever.
So that sounds cool. So before we finish up, it's been an hour. I think we should finish up now. It's been a good show, don't worry. So before we finish up, is there anything else you would like to say?
Yeah, we need to like disavow like the LGBTQ group. Like, I think like the biggest thing I get challenged on a lot is that like I'm not for these kind of group alignments or whatever. I'm just want to stand it as united as Americans or whatever. And people want to be part of the LGBT, or they want to be part of the LGB, or they want to drop the Q or the TQ or whatever. People just need to be like completely individualistic. I know that's kind of cringe. Some people find it to be cringe, but like you really like, to me, I guess referencing back to Aristotle as well, where I believe that the parts make up the whole. It's not the whole makes up the parts. So in a sense, like you have to realize that it always boils down to the individual and not to the whole. So, or the collective. It goes, you know, and it becomes a philosophical debate of what's more important, the individual or the collective. But I think people need to step away from aligning with this LGBTQ concept or whatever, and altogether they need to leave it alone. Like they want to drop the queer stuff, they want to like the queer letter, whatever. I might be going on about it a lot, but it's very important that we stop aligning with this stuff and just be individuals. I am Rita, and I just so happen to be trans. Just because I'm trans does not make me part of the LGBT or whatever it is. So,
well, where can people find you, Rita?
Mostly they can just find me on Twitter. That's at Miss Rita Love. And I'm on YouTube. It's the same thing. It's at Miss Rita Love. And then I'm on Instagram, and that's the real Miss Rita Love on Instagram. So.
Well, thank you for coming on, Rita. It was a pleasure having you. I really enjoyed it. It was a fun conversation.
Next time I'll come back with the immigration statistics. I'll make sure I have my Aristotle quote ready.
That's fine. Don't worry about it. You were all good. Don't worry. You were all good today. And I just want to say to everybody, please go and like and subscribe to Rita's YouTube channel. Go and follow her on Twitter. Also go and check out that video where she went to a left-wing rally, where she was assaulted, where she was willing to stand up for her rights and her freedom of speech. Very brave of her, respect to her. We need more people like that in our world who are willing to speak up against all the crap that goes on, whether it's censorship, whether it's this, you know what I mean. Like I said, please go check her out, everybody. Fantastic person she is. And I just want to say to everybody, thank you for joining the Welsh Republic Podcast episode 114 today. Have a nice day, everybody. Take care, enjoy, stay safe, and God bless you all. Bye.